Thank you for joining me, Jason Kirk. I think you all know who I am. I'm the managing director of Kirk and Kirk, one half of the boss team. The other half being Karen. Karen Kirk is not here. She's the creative director. But I'll be here to field all your questions and hopefully give you some answers to the thorny questions that have been bothering you about Kirk and Kirk and what's going on in our industry and what we can expect and what we can hope for, and some of my opinions, better or for worse, about what's going on and what we should be doing. So just a little bit of background to what I've been doing and where we've been for the last sort of 20 odd years. So Kirk and Kirk started last October. We launched at Silmo with our first collection, which was called Vivarium. And we're a small team. There are 5 of us based in Brighton in England, right on the seafront. I'll show you where we are in a second. And we, as you all probably know, I was, along with Karen, we were the founders of Kirk Originals back in '92. And we left about a year or two ago when we didn't share the same vision as the other people that were involved in the company, and we decided to go off and do our own thing and really pursue what our vision is of eyewear design. We want to bring something new to the market. We want to bring something that offers the optician the opportunity to sell something exciting and that brings something new to their consumers and makes people excited about optics. Because I think it's very easy for all of us, whether we're designers, reps, opticians, suppliers, whatever we are, to get complacent and stuck in a groove and forget the things that really matter about our business, about our industry, and just start making things too much to like bring home the bucks. And although everybody needs to make a living, unless we excite people about what we're doing, unless we innovate, unless we bring something special to the table, then our industry will be threatened, as it is at the moment, and threatened with a very nasty and sudden ending, which brought about by, which could be brought about by big players, small players. But the point is, it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility as the players in our industry and our side of the industry to do something that makes people feel great about optics, to make people want to wear glasses, to enjoy wearing glasses, to want to go out and buy new glasses and different glasses and enjoy the whole experience of it. And that's really what Kirk and Kirk is about. That's what we're trying to do. And that's why we always try and bring something different to the game. So there we are. That was an introduction to Kirk and Kirk and why Karen and I are here and what we do. We work in a small office in Hove, which is part of Brighton, which you might have heard of, which is right on the south coast of England. It's kind of like a small London. There's loads goes on here. Music, theatre, great restaurants, great places to go out. But the best thing about this place is the view from our window, which I will now share with you. So, if you step up here with me, this is it. Sorry the windows might be a little bit dirty. I hope you can still hear me. So that is about 30 metres away, that huge ship called the Atlantic Marine. That's leased out. It's owned by the people who own this building, and it's leased out to the Singapore Navy every so often. So it's there for 6-8 months of the year, and then it disappears off. And you have this channel of water, this dark blue water, which you can see where the boat is sitting. And that is Shoreham Port, which is the port that serves Brighton and Hove and this little part of the south coast. And then beyond that, the water gets slightly greener. I don't know if you can discern that through this iPhone. But that's the English Channel. And about 20 miles across the English Channel is France. And you can see, if you look really, really little carefully, there's my friend Pierre over there waving. Hello, Pierre. There we go. That's our view. Beautiful sunny day. It's not always like this in England, honestly. There we go. Oh, we got a few more people. Cool. Thank you. So, crikey, who's here? Perhaps you could give me some names, because I've got some very small little icons. I need better glasses so I can see those icons. Perhaps I know you. Perhaps I might recognise you. Perhaps you're new folk. But yeah, thank you. So yeah, what am I wearing today? Thank you for admiring my glasses, local pigeon. These are from the new Vivarium collection. They're made of acrylic. They're called Carson. They're made of acrylic. So the main reason we work in acrylic, well, there are lots of reasons. We love working in acrylic because nobody knows how to do it, which is absolutely great. Manufacturers don't know how to do it. And we spent about 2 or 3 years developing this new material that could make glasses in the old-fashioned way. And we love the idea of bringing something new, a new material, but keeping the savoir-faire of the real artisans. So acrylic starts off with a sheet of material in the same way that acetate does, and you make it in the same way that you would really hand make an acetate frame, except that there are lots of different subtleties in the way that you make it, and that's what makes it very, very difficult, and that's why we're the only people that really work in acrylic and make fully acrylic frames. There are 2 huge advantages to acrylic. If you've ever tried a frame on, you'll see how incredibly light they are. They're so comfortable to wear, beautiful. They weigh nothing. They weigh like a third of an acetate frame. So that allows you to wear something that looks like it's heavy, looks massive, or massif as they'd say in French. So it's got some substance and some weight to it. But actually when you put it on, it's so comfortable and beautiful to wear. Super easy to adjust. It behaves differently to acetate. You have to make it very, very hot, and then it goes really, really soft. And you only adjust it when it's soft, but it's so easy, there's no resistance. And then it holds its position. So once it's been adjusted, your clients won't keep coming back to have the frames readjusted or saying they're not comfortable. And you'll notice that there's no reinforcing wire because it doesn't need one. Well, that's lovely. It's a real beauty. So people just get their frames adjusted perfectly. It shows the optician's skill. They spend a little bit of time doing it. It really impresses the clients. And they have a frame which stays comfortable and beautiful. It also means that using acrylic instead of acetate, we have this massive collection of materials that nobody else has, no other colours that other people can have. So we have something really exceptional. So if you want something to differentiate your store from other stores, yeah, there you go, there's an advert. This is one way of doing it. Is it similar to Optil? It does behave similarly to Optil. You have to treat it in a similar way to Optil, but it's a much stronger, more developed material. So it's kind of a progression. You know, for 30 years later, after Optil, it does the things that we wanted Optil to do, but it does them in a much better way, in a much more professional way. And we've been asked, how did we learn to do that? Well, and is acrylic difficult to work with? I think I've just answered that one, I hope. But it's really, really easy to work with. You just have to know how. So the easy way to learn how is on the Kirk & Kirk website, which is kirkandkirk.com. At the bottom, there's an adjustment video. And if you look at that, it shows you in about 30 seconds how easy it is. Just with a normal frame heater, make it hot, goes soft, adjust it, dip it in cold water if you can, then it keeps its shape completely, and it's beautiful. Where did we learn how? Well, it wasn't that there were people who already knew how that were showing us. It was something that we wanted to do. And a lot of the time over the years, Karen and I, when we've had ideas, we've gone to manufacturers and we've said, we like this concept, can you do it? And usually when they say no, there's often one that will say, well, no, but I'll give it a go. And that's what gets us going. That's what we like to hear. So people will try and create something different. And we like to work with manufacturers who are looking to do something different as well. So that's what happens. And then, you know, we kind of felt when we first started working with acrylic and it just kind of fell apart, we kind of felt, well, this is really great, and it's not that far from acetate. It can't be that different or that difficult. I mean, what did people do when they were learning how to use acetate? It was the same thing. They didn't know how to do it. They'd never seen it before. Well, okay, let's try and work out how this is done. So that's what we did. And it really did take a number of years. It really did take a long time. But for us, it was worth it. And Karen and I have been working with acrylic for, I would say more than 15 years now. And it was really interesting. At the beginning, opticians were kind of a little bit scared about it and a bit skeptical and just didn't want to touch it because they'd never seen it before. But actually, you know, that was the same with horn. And it's always the same when people have a new material or something that hopefully will change the industry or bring something new to the industry. And over those years, it's got accepted. It's really enjoyed by people. A lot of our consumers, our end customers, know it and love it and ask for it. And opticians have got used to it. So the clients that we've worked with over those years that have got used to using acrylic are very, very comfortable with it and really, really love it. So yeah, so that's acrylic. It's all, and I'm sure this is something we'll come back to later, it's all handmade in France. And when I say handmade in France, I mean from start to finish. So that's really, really important. And there's a lot of stuff going on in our industry at the moment, which is a real bugbear for me and probably for a lot of you as well, where people are not entirely honest about where their frames come from. And I think we should probably deal with that as a separate subject a bit later on, because I think it's hugely, hugely important for our industry right now, transparency and honesty. But these frames are made in France, 100%. When I say 100%, actually there's a little bit that isn't made in France, and that's the jewellery. And you'll notice on these frames that there's a little, I don't know how clearly you can see this, but that's a lion. That lion is made of sterling silver. And you have a choice of a number of pins, different animals, 4 different animals, which I'll show you in a second. They're made in sterling silver or in 9 karat gold, solid 9 karat gold. And the jewellery is made in England. So that's the only part that isn't made in France. Okay, here's a question. Favourite clients to work with? That's a tough one. We love working with people that are creative, that are inspiring to us and inspired by their industry and inspire their clients. We love working with people who, well, it's essential that we work with people who enjoy communicating about the products that they carry, explaining why a product is unique or different, what it brings to the market, what it brings to the consumer, and people who are creative about their whole environment and what they do. You know, optics is a science and a profession, and for the most part it's not creative, but those of you who really get behind it and try and make it an experience for everybody who's involved in optics, going from the manufacturers right the way through to the end wearers, those are the people we love working with. And there are some great opticians around and people who create amazing environments, and those are the people we love. Bob asks, does it sell well in hot, dry climates? It's not, the heat isn't a problem. You have to make acrylic very, very hot for it to go soft and adjust. So when you put it in your frame heater at really top heat, it's like 30, 40 seconds at least before it goes soft. So it's not really a problem at all. It's not brittle. It behaves well in the heat, and because it's so light, it's really comfortable to wear as well. Thank you for enjoying the lion. That's very kind of you. Would you like to see some other animals? Let me go and get some more frames. I'll come back to you. Excuse me a second. Have a look at our wall. This is our wall. It's okay, I'm back. Right, I hope you don't think I was too rude. So, let me go and show you some more of the little folks that live on our glasses. So as I said, we've got 4 animals. You've seen the lion. Let me show you. Okay, so this fella's cool. This is a stallion. This one's 9 karat gold, and as I said, for each frame shape, you can choose the colour of the frame. So we have 6 different colours. This is the green. I'm wearing the blue. We have a Bordeaux, which I'll come back to. We have an anthracite grey, and we have a light grey, and there's a brown as well, which I'll show you in a second. So this is a stallion, which is great, and different shapes work on different kind of frames as well. So you'll see that as we go through. And yeah, there's a stallion. We have a ram, which is really cool. What's really interesting about these as well is that when you first see somebody wearing the frame, you don't actually see that it's an animal. So you can see that I'm wearing a shape. In this case, and here you can see like a triangle when somebody's wearing it. And you have to kind of get closer to it and have a look at it and sort of engage with the glasses. And that's what we really like, people to really engage with the glasses. These are inspired by the crazy sort of Victorian English eccentric scientists and their relationship with nature, which is why we have animals on here. And a lot of our imagery, which you may have seen in various different places, is inspired by Gainsborough paintings, this whole kind of lovely Victorian feel to what's going on. What else have we got here? And we love that kind of dandy look, and the way that people in that era really took care about how they looked and how they dressed up. Love it. Lots more of that stuff on the website. You can see it on our Instagram as well, which is called Kirk and Kirk too. Oh yes, didn't show you the fly. And also, I don't know whether you can really pick this up, but they're very 3D, these pins. So we've made them so they really come out at ya. So you've got the fly's wings coming out on there. This fly is in 9-carat gold, and again, you can choose it in silver. So there you go. There are the animals. Why did we pick the particular animals? I think was the question that was asked there. It started off, I mean, it's really interesting when you're faced with a blank canvas and you can choose any shape you want. That's kind of difficult. It sounds like it should be really easy, but actually it's really difficult. And there are some really obvious kind of commercial choices which we decided not to go for. And what we decided was the most appropriate was to look for animals where the shapes fitted well with the frames, where they were easy to wear, whether there were suggestions of just a kind of a normal traditional optical pin, like a triangle in the case of the ram, or even in the fly as well, it looks like a triangle. But then to try and elaborate them, to make them come out in 3D, to bring them to life, because we've always tried to really animate our frames, to really bring them to life, so they become not just a part of your wardrobe, but almost like a friend that contributes to your personality, that's very much part of what you wear. And I'm preaching to the converted when I say that the glasses are the first thing that you see, and people spend so much on their shoes, and people spend so much on their shirts, and why don't they just spend the same time and attention and the same money on glasses? Well, it's easy for me to say this to you, and it's easy for us to discuss this on the various optical forums, but actually getting that message out there and getting people to listen and really pay attention to it, it's all very well saying it, but actually you have to do stuff which really makes people think differently about their glasses. And that can be done in any part of the glasses. That can be done in the frame or in the pin. And it can be done with the lenses as well. Plenty of you guys are out there that know your lenses inside out and know the difference that a great lens makes to the wearer. And it's communicating that makes all the difference. It's not just actually doing it. Who picks the colours? Karen and I work on concepts together. We pick colours together usually, although Karen's creative director, so she'll design the frames. She's in charge of all the creative, but we're a team where Karen does most of the work. Really, that's fine for me. I shall tell Karen that you said beautiful colours. Thank you. I hope she's listening. Karen, are you listening? Give me a sign, any sign if you're there. Do I see a clear layer, Bob? No, there's no clear layer. And that's a question that we get asked as well. Let me show you on another frame here. Let me find a brown one. I haven't shown you a brown one yet. Let's see if I got one here. Typical. Okay. So I'll show you on a Supra, semi-rimless as you guys call them. Assuming that you're all American or Canadian. Okay, so this is our frame Owen. And the colour is actually in the mass. It's actually in the material. So if you go through there, you can see that the colour is solid. And it goes right the way through. You can, crikey, I'm trying to think of the word in English. You can polish. So when you have the frames in your store, you can polish them. You can, what's the word? File. You can file the bridges if you want to, file the noses. You can treat it the same way as you treat an acetate frame from that point of view if you need to make it more comfortable for the client. Yeah, and it does all sorts of interesting things as you peel away the surface layers. It's quite interesting, but the colour goes right the way through. Okay, so you haven't seen a brown frame yet. Perhaps we'll get one later. We've just had a massive delivery in here, so this place is a complete mess, which you can't see. How do we name the frames? So, these frames were all named after Victorian scientists, the kind of people that had inspired us. So Owen, for example, there's Owen. Owen was named after Sir Robert Owen, who was a paleontologist. He was the founder of the Natural History Museum in London, and he was, I think he had a bit of an argument, a Barney with Charles Darwin. They didn't always see eye to eye. But one of the things that he was most famous for was he wanted to put forward one of his theories about paleontology, and he invited a whole load of leading scientists to dinner in London, and he built these huge life-size dinosaurs, and he actually invited these scientists to dinner, and they had dinner inside one of the dinosaurs, which was quite incredible. And when you all come to London, all of you, I'll take you down. It's in South London. It's in Alexandra Palace, I believe. Somebody's going to correct me, but it's in Alexandra Palace, and they still have these massive life-size dinosaurs, and you can actually open doors and go inside the dinosaurs. Yep, Owen is the one. Don't ask me about all of them, because it gets a bit harder. Although this one, fairly simple, Curie, named after Marie Curie. And this is a great frame. This we won a couple of awards for this frame, actually. We won the Hall of Frames Award, which is voted for by the German and Swiss opticians who visit the Hall of Frames exhibition, which is a great exhibition. And we also won a London Design Award, which was lovely because it wasn't just limited to optics. So that was really cool. Yeah, is everybody coming to London? When are you coming? Now, we've got a show in London. You should come along. 100% Optical. 100% Optical is a new show. It's only been... We've had 2 editions, and it's got enormous potential. It's got room to grow, of course, but what is lovely is the British eyewear market, and somebody's just asked me about the international market. Do we see differences between the different countries? Yeah, there are huge differences. The British eyewear market is conservative. There are very few independents, creative independents, very few people who travel and go and look at all the international shows and try and find different products. It's a huge source of frustration for me because I've really tried ever since I came into optics in the early 90s to try and take our industry forward, and England remains frustratingly slow. Britain remains frustratingly slow to develop. When I think back to when we started, and France had very few creative opticians, really good independent boutiques. There are 200 now, really great boutiques in France. Spain remains a little bit slow. America was for the size and attitude, if you like, of America. When I started in the early 90s, there weren't that many really good opticians around. And now it's fantastic, and it's so competitive, and there are so many good people trying to do good things. It's a great market. Canada, fantastic market. Love it. Absolutely love it. Hey Karen, how you doing? You coming? That's good. Different Karen. Nice to see you. So yeah, and when I talk about trying to change the industry, you know, my grandfather really changed the industry. My grandfather was Sidney Kirk, and his brother was Percy Kirk, and they had a company called Kirk Brothers, and they started back. Well, I thought they started in 1919, but it seems they started earlier than that. This is amazing. We just found a patent that they tried to lodge in America in 1916. So if they were trying to lodge a patent in 1916, then they must already have been in business for quite a period of time to be at that point. So I don't really know when they started, but they're amazing characters. We keep finding little bits of information, and if any of you can help us with this, we'd really appreciate it. Before he passed away, one of my dad's cousins was well into his 90s, and he was Percy Kirk's son. And he lived in Florida, and he was telling me all about when he was a kid growing up in England, in a part of North London. And he said he remembered growing up, and there were all sorts of stars around the house, and I didn't really know what he meant. And I thought, you're in your 90s, and maybe kind of like, this is one of those stories that we shouldn't pay too much attention to. But he was very, very lucid. And he said there was George Burns, and Bob Hope used to come around the house, and he was absolutely certain about this. And it turns out that Sidney and Percy Kirk used to have a music hall act, and I've tried everywhere. I mean, they were clearly at the top of the tree because those were the kind of people that they hung out with. But they were very, very successful at that, and they did that before they went into optics. So if any of you have any connections in that world and you can help me find something, I've tried very, very hard. I've tried the music hall societies and the vaudeville societies. Haven't got very far. Anyone can help me, that'd be brilliant. So I think that after the First World War, it looks like it was probably before the First World War, they were trying to find a new career to move into, and they decided to move into optics. And obviously they weren't shy because they were on the stage and they were creative and interesting guys. And they set up Kirk Brothers, and they started to do things really, really differently. So they were the first people to have their own marketing department, which seems kind of like mundane now, but actually in those days it was an amazing thing. They brought out whole books with advertising imagery that people could use in their stores to help them promote, which was something that had never been done before. They had the first motorbike couriers. There were some great images of guys delivering glasses by motorbike, which is completely unheard of. Lots and lots of stuff. They invented bulletproof glass. They were just amazing guys. And the other thing that was brilliant about that time was there were other families around who are still, actually, some of them are still involved in optics, but people like the Goldsmiths, they started in London at the same time. P. Oliver Goldsmith started his studio in Soho, where he was making glasses. Crikey, who else? The Wiseman family were all involved in optics, and they started the Alga Works factory, which still exists in East London. And so there were lots of people, the Norvilles, people that were big in British optics, and some on the international stage as well. But the great thing was, instead of being competitive with each other, they were all friends, and they would all help each other. And when there was like masses of work, they would share the work. Instead of just like waiting or taking on more stuff, they'd share the work out, and they'd help each other out. And if someone didn't know how to do something, they would teach each other how to do something, and they'd learn stuff together. And right through from the 1920s, right up until, I would say, probably 1980s, the British optical industry was really, really strong. And that's something, it was kind of a strength and a weakness as well. We had the National Health Service, which came in after the Second World War. And the National Health Service, the government promised glasses, free glasses to everybody in the UK or everybody in England, which was a promise of 8 million frames and lenses. That's quite a lot. And instead of just saying, well, you can have glasses, we'll give them to you, they controlled it naturally. And what they did was they gave the license to produce these glasses. They only gave the contract to 3 factories initially. So those 3 factories went absolutely nuts, and they just had a massive, massive demand. And the British optical industry was in an incredible position. And they would share out the work, and they'd open new factories. It was just absolutely brilliant. But they got complacent, and over the years they kind of tried to shut the door on foreign imports coming into the country and competing with British manufacturers. They weren't prepared, they weren't exporting because they had so much demand in the UK that they didn't need to export. So when the market opened up, when anybody could sell in the UK, when importers started to bring in frames from Scandinavia. There were some brilliant frames from Scandinavia, great frames from Spain, from France coming in. When that started happening and people would see frames that they hadn't seen before, instead of the little National Health frames, they're seeing big chunky plastic frames or metal frames coming in, and they were exotic. They were great. So people were excited, and they stopped buying the British frames, and they couldn't compete anymore. And very quickly, everything went downhill. The British manufacturer that was here started to disappear. They couldn't compete with brand names that started to come in late 80s, early 90s. It was a very, very difficult period, and the industry collapsed. And somebody's just asked me, there you go, it's Tim, I think, has asked, why is there a decrease in independence in England, independent opticians? I don't think there's been a decrease in independent opticians. I just think there never really were that many. And I have to define that. I mean, when I say independent opticians, I mean the kind of creative boutiques that are seeking out the newest frames and trying to offer the newest and exciting products to the public. I think that British opticians have always seen themselves as, quite rightly so, as extremely medical, very well qualified, an important medical service, but also to the detriment of their commercial approach. And I know that my dad, Neville, never wanted to advertise, didn't believe in advertising at all, that an optician shouldn't need to do that. And I respect that. I understand that he was offering a medical service, and the profession is offering a medical service. But today's reality is that everything is really, really competitive. And I know that, over the years, while I've been in business, people have said to me, well, who are your competitors? And it's quite easy to kind of reel off a few brands that do products that move in our space, but that's not really the point. The point is that if somebody's got a few £100, a few $100 in their pocket, they decide where to spend that. And that can be in the supermarket, that can be filling their car with petrol, that can be buying plane tickets, or it could be a new pair of glasses. And I think that we all need to think about our competitors in much broader terms. It's funny. I think that people have this idea that spending, let's say for the sake of argument, $500 on a pair of handmade nice glasses is something exceptional. It doesn't happen very often. They don't think about doing that more than, I don't know, if you've got good clients, it might be like once a year. Some exceptional clients, it might be 2 or 3 times a year, but most people don't do that. They do it when they feel they need to. And the people that love glasses do it when they feel they want to. But they don't want to as often as they'll buy a plane ticket for the same money, or as often as they'll go out for a very expensive meal or a couple of expensive meals to kind of spend the same on an evening or two. Why not? Why not? And it's our job to make them want to do that. It's our job to make them want to spend that money on a pair of glasses as much as they want to spend it on a suit or a pair of shoes, or flights off to an island, or treating your loved one to dinner. It's like, it shouldn't be that hard. And I think that, sorry, I'm kind of getting off subject, a bit scary. I think that British opticians have always been really reticent about that, have always really resisted it. And they continue to do so today. And with a few exceptions, there are some very good opticians here, but only a few. And that's a real shame. Because the thing that happens now, and you all know this from wherever you are, your consumers travel. It's so easy to travel. It costs nothing. It's really easy to do. And they go off, and somebody who lives in Brighton, well, there are at least 2, 3, and several more good opticians in the Brighton area. But people don't just buy their glasses here. They 30 minutes down the road, there's Gatwick Airport. You jump on a plane, you're in Paris, or you're in New York, or you're in Budapest, and you see beautiful opticians. And you see glasses that you don't see next door. That's exciting. That feels good. I've seen something I haven't seen anywhere else. I'm going to spend some money. And that's a real threat, and a real reason why independent opticians aren't too numerous in the UK, because they're trying a thing different. I think that's a bit of an issue. Okay, how should opticians sell high end? And do I recommend having opticians sell frames as art? I'm not sure I really understand that question, but I think I'm gonna broach another issue, because I realise I've been babbling on for hours, and I hope you guys you're still here. Most of you are still here, so that's good. I think I'm going to answer both of those questions by asking a question, because I think one of the things that's become apparent to me in the last year or two is people have lost sight of what luxury is and what a designer is. This is really weird for me. I mean, when I look in the forum, where we're all discussing stuff, and people are talking about luxury eyewear, and I'm opening a new store. I'm going luxury. I'm going high end. What brand should I carry? And I see the brands that people put down, right? And okay, so you have to be honest and say if you're the rep of that brand, but actually, people are recommending stuff and talking about brands which are not, in my book, luxury, and are not designer. The designer thing went out years ago. So for me, a designer is someone who actually makes and creates a product, or solves a problem, brings a solution to a problem. It's not, as we all know, it's not shoving a name on the side of any product, whether it's glasses or anything else. That doesn't make it a designer product, and that's easily forgotten, but I think we're all past that stage. Anybody who's here and talking or listening and asking questions now understands that. But luxury is something that seems to just be getting lost here. I remember opening our second shop, so I've had 3 stores as well over my tenure in optics, my 20 odd years doing this. I've had 3 stores in London. When I opened my second store, it was considered like the luxury optical store. I didn't really know what that meant anyway. And I was asked in an interview, what is luxury? And at the time, for me, I remember what my answer was. Luxury was being able to travel. Because travel had always been something that was like super expensive, not something you could really allow yourself to do for most people. Most people didn't travel all that much. And so to have all these like low-cost airlines, budget airlines, even the bigger airlines bringing their prices down, made something that you couldn't normally do or attain attainable. And for me, that's what luxury is all about. It's about I almost said it's about spending a little bit more than you would normally spend so you get something better, but it's not really about the money. It's about allowing yourself to have or do or achieve something better than you would do if you didn't really think about it. And that's the big difference. And so your question was like, how do we sell high end? And I think the first answer has to be, we have to make sure that we really are selling high end. We have to, are our frames beautifully made? Do they really justify the price that we're selling them for? Our consumers are not stupid. This is one of the really huge issues, fundamental issues facing our industry now. So I see people belly aching about Warby Parker, and in other countries it's like Bailey Nelson, and complaining about supermarkets selling frames. They're not in our market. It's not our problem. We don't care, because it's not luxury. But it only becomes a problem when we come down to a different level and we start selling frames which are no better than their frames. And how are we going to do that? How are we going to avoid that? So please, the frames that you're buying, right? Where do they say they're from? Where do they say they're made? Just because something says made in Italy, right? Is it made in Italy? And does it make a difference? But is it made in Italy? And there are certain rules and laws that are in place that mean that a certain amount of the procedure has to be carried out in the place where it says the frame is from. That's fine, okay? So let's assume that everybody that writes made in France, made in Europe, made in Italy is being honest with you. They've reached the legal number of procedures that they have to do. That doesn't help you as an optician. That does not help you as a retailer. Okay, if the components, the main components, let's say it's an acetate frame, if the acetate is from China, the frame is made in China, the frame is Chinese. Nobody buys Chinese acetate and makes it in Italy. No one does it. It's too expensive. Okay, if the frame is predominantly made in Asia and put together in Italy, the frame is made in Asia. Now, I want to really stress this is super, super important, all right? I'm on record here. I have seen frames being made in China which are so much better than frames being made in Europe. So, I'm not criticising Asian production. I'm not criticising European production. What I'm criticising and what I'm threatening, what I'm talking about is the threat to our industry here, is transparency, is honesty. And if we are making frames, if the design industry is making frames at a fraction of the price and a fraction of the quality of what they were being made for 15, 20 years ago, that needs to be reflected in the wholesale and the retail price. There's no point in having it a bit cheaper than a European frame and making a massive margin, because our consumers will know. They will find out. It's obvious. It's easy. And that's what makes it really easy for people like Warby Parker to say, well, actually, look at our frame. Because it's not that different to that really expensive one that you've got on your shelves that says it's made in Europe. Because actually, the reality is it's not that different. And what we have a responsibility to do at the high end, at the genuine high end, people who care about their products, people who care about the way they present their products, we have a responsibility to root out the products that are not genuine. And we should stop buying them. And that's really hard. You know, I know how hard this is, and you can see I'm getting a bit passionate about this. But I have this conversation regularly and calmly with people all over the world. I think that unless we stand up to brands that are not honest about where they come from, independent opticians are in real trouble. And that is so difficult because for a lot of you, look around you now, look on your shelves, you know that much of your product and much of your product that sells really, really well for you is not made where it purports to be made. And that is awful. That is dreadful because people will find out. The internet makes it so easy. People will find out where stuff is made. So, thank you for that question. How do opticians find out who the true luxury eyewear companies are? Well, it's, first of all, ask them. Call them. When I say call them, I mean call them in like the poker sense of the word. Ask, phone the heads of the companies. Don't ask the reps, okay? There are some great reps out there, and I hope some of you are listening and involved in this. There are some very honest people who will tell you where their frames are from because they know. But sometimes you need to call the designers, because those of you who have great stores, and that's some of you that I can see there, I know have got great stores, and you're carrying great products. You know who the designers are. You know the owners of the companies. Ask them straight up. But also, you're also experienced enough to hold a frame and to tell where it comes from. Most of the frames that you're holding are acetate frames. You can tell, you can see the weight, you can see the finish, you can see the texture. I mean, I don't know if it's just me. I know that I can pick up a frame and I can virtually tell you which factory it comes from. It feels European, it feels whatever it is, wherever it comes from, I can feel it, and I know you can as well. Some of you guys like that I've known for 20 odd years, I know you can, and so we have to be hard about this, and we have to call some of these companies and say, you know what, I've got huge respect for someone like Garrett Light, who makes lovely frames, and it says made in China, and that's honest, and it allows you as an optician, and it allows the consumer to make an informed decision. You decide. It's made in China. This is the price. This is the quality, and Garrett's frames are great. This is the quality. You decide whether you buy it or not. And you put that next to something else, another frame which moves in that marketplace. you put it next to a Barton Pereira, you put it next to an Oliver Peoples, and you decide which of those brands is the right one for you. And, you know, only you can make those decisions. But perhaps we need more people getting together, talking like this. I mean, I don't know how many people we've got. We've certainly got a little crowd together now. That's great. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. People getting together and talking openly and honestly. And instead of just like trying to promote their own brand, trying to be commercial and take that opportunity, actually talking about these issues, because they're really, really important. Who will determine the transparency guidelines? I think it's really difficult. You know, Jacques Durand, who is absolutely brilliant and a very important man to our industry and in our industry. Jacques worked in optics for, crikey, probably longer than he'll want me to say. He's worked with Alan Mickley, he's worked independently, he's produces his own brands. Jacques has a scheme in place which he's trying to promote, which talks about every element of the frame being transparent and showing its roots and origins, which is, I think, is a cracking idea, and I think it has its constraints because it's not necessarily that easy to implement. But why shouldn't we have a board of people, a group of people who look at a product? But, you know, ultimately what we require is honesty. There are products that I see that are fairly new on the market that have that work under a good name, a good brand. I know where they're produced. I've seen them produced in factories in Asia, and they say made in France on them. And people are buying them. Opticians are buying them, and opticians are selling them. And I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, you know what? If we're making money out of it, fine. But actually, no, because what's going to happen is it's going to become very, very obvious very, very soon that there is a lack of honesty going on with some frame makers. And the problem is that can taint everything that we do. Imagine this. You sell a frame to some guy and he goes off on holiday to China and he finds his very expensive frame and he just happens to go and meet a guy who works in a frame factory, and it's far-fetched, but why wouldn't it happen? And he sees the frame that he's just spent like $500-600 on, and it says made in France, and he goes into a factory and he sees it being made in that factory. Now, apart from anything else, you know, could he be a journalist? Is he going to come back and attack us like so many journalists have tried to do and make our lives difficult? But there's something else as well. He's not going to believe anything that the retailer ever says to him. He's not going to buy a pair of lenses off you because he's going to think that you're overcharging, that it's going to cost too much money, and that he might as well go somewhere and either not pay very much money or go somewhere where he thinks he's being treated honestly. He won't buy contact lenses from you. He won't get his eye test. Our industry as a whole will lose the confidence of the consumer. And in some countries, particularly America, particularly France, optics is under attack. And there are some amazing, honest, talented, professional people in our profession that need to stand up and battle for what is right, for what we believe in, for what we're doing. How we do that, whether we put a little group of people together, maybe. It's impractical. It takes a lot of time, you know. And then who's going to determine who those people are, and are they going to have credibility in the industry? I don't really know. I think that we should just use the might of our buying power and question the people that are selling to us and put them under pressure. Get them to show you, get them to prove to you where their frames are made. Get them to put their hand on their heart and tell you where they're made. And you know what? If they're made in China, it's not a bad thing. Or if they're made in somewhere else in Asia, it's not a bad thing, as long as they're honest about it. Okay, I've probably babbled on for too long about this, and crikey, I've been talking for an hour, and I hope you're not too bored with this, but you can tell I'm passionate about it. Which frame companies do I love? Well, there are some great designers out there. You know, there's some obvious ones if we dig back in the archives, and you know, if you look back at what Alan Mickley has brought us over the years, you have to say huge respect to somebody who's changed our industry and changed the way that people think about glasses and paved the way for people like us and other people to bring something creative and new into the industry. there's some fantastic stuff around, some really interesting designers. Ralph Vesson is absolutely great. Going back, if you look back in the archives, there's an English designer called Michael Birch, who started to do all the like Upswept, Cat's Eyes, the Baby Doll, all this kind of stuff. He was amazing, and there are lots of people that before frames really kind of got out there and became part of fashion, that never really had their names in the lights that they should have been, and they deserve to be found as well. There's quite a lot of archive stuff on our Instagram. I did a talk at 100% Optical last year on the history of British optics, and talked about a few designers there, and some great stuff. There's a great resource. Neil Handley runs the museum in London. If you ever come to London, I think you're all coming, judging by some of the stuff that was going on. There's a great museum with lots of old frames and lots of archive material in there, and that's a great place to find cool designers. Bob, hello, who's that? You're leaving. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for your questions. Really good to see you. Thank you. One other thing that I haven't really talked about. If you want to stick with me for a little bit longer, I don't know whether we've got a schedule that we have to get. I get cut off at 6 o'clock. I don't know. The internet and how we as professionals deal with the internet. And this is a real thorny issue that isn't going to go away. And thank goodness it's not going to go away, because it's a tool that we have to embrace, and it's part of the change. I remember a couple of years ago, various of our clients saying to us, well, you know, if you sell on the internet, we won't work with you. And it was really bizarre, because everybody was starting to buy everything on the internet now. And people are buying clothes, people are buying shoes, we were finding out people were buying really expensive jewelry, people were buying cars. I mean, it's nuts. Why wouldn't they buy glasses? And okay, I can hear your answers. There are reasons why people won't buy glasses. I'll come back to your questions in a minute. I'm seeing them. And so now we're in a position where a few people, the kind of like, you know, the young business bulls kind of like came in, started making cheap glasses, banging them out on the internet, and some more expensive glasses as well. People selling brands, doing really, really well. And of course, why not? It's going to happen. And so now I still hear people saying, well, you know, you can't sell on the internet, or you don't get the same service if you buy a frame on the internet. You know what? It's here to stay. There's nothing we can do about it. And we have to make it a really positive experience and a worthwhile experience for people to come in to your stores and to get you the benefit of your experience and knowledge and service and frame offer. And that's really important too. And value that you're offering too. And there's no reason for them to buy on the internet. I saw the most ridiculous thing on LEF today. Sorry, the person who wrote this is not going to be very pleased with me, but I don't know whether he's listening or not. Somebody was asking about a particular brand, and they said that they had a client come in and ask for this brand, picked up the frame, went online, and found the frame for $14 cheaper. Well, what a surprise. You know what? I mean, have any of you guys got Ray-Ban in your stores? Well, you know, I had a great conversation. We work with a fantastic group of opticians called I Like in France, and I was invited to one of their talks a little while ago. It was about 2 or 3 years ago, and there were 30 opticians there, and Ray-Ban was really at its peak. And there was one optician there who said, I haven't got Ray-Ban. And he was a super trendy guy. He was like really cool, great brands in his store. And everyone else in the room said, well, you've got to have Ray-Ban. I mean, we're selling so many of them and everything else. He said, no. He said, I haven't got to have it. I offer a product that no one else has, and that gives people a reason why they have to come to our store if they want to. And so we started discussing things and discussing reasons why people had problems with Ray-Ban in their store. And the biggest reason that people had was that, sorry about that probably looked like I was touching you there. I had a text come up. The biggest problem that people had was that They'd have Ray-Ban in their store, and then people would just go online and find it cheaper, and then they'd start calling them out and saying, well, why can I buy this cheaper? And they'd lose credibility. And they wouldn't buy lenses from them because they thought they were being shafted because they could buy them cheaper online. Don't carry frames that are sold cheaper online. But that doesn't mean that frames shouldn't be sold online. So what we do is you can buy Kirk frames online as a consumer, but you will pay the same price that you pay in a store. So we have a very clear call on our site which says, we want you to go to an optician, we want you to go to a stockist and buy your frames from the stockist and get advice on what lenses suit you and whether those lenses will suit the frame and all the things that go with that, all the obvious things that you know. But if you can't, if you live in Dakota, where I love Dakota, but I don't have a stockist there, it's kind of hard, you know? So I can't say to somebody, well, drive for 9 hours and go to a stockist, or you can't have one of our frames. And that's basically the choice. Some people will only buy products online. They're so used to doing it, that's the way they shop. And, you know, for some of us who are not kids anymore, we're not used to that. It's not a reflex, but a lot of people who will spend the sort of money we want them to spend are young enough where they've grown up in that millennium generation. And that's all they want. That's all, the only way that they will buy. You have to send them frames. They might send them back. That's the way it works. So we have a choice. And we can say no and not do it and be pig-headed about our industry. But that's kind of what the British opticians did in the 1970s and 1980s. And that was the end. That was the death knell for British optics. So my opinion is that designers, proper designers, good frames can be sold online as long as the price is controlled. So as long as you limit the number of places where you can access them, and as long as you make sure that all of those places sell at the same price. Now, I've also seen people talking about this idea that you've got companies that will say they can access any frame for you. And I've actually experienced it because we had a company come to us recently and say, we want to buy a frame from you at wholesale price. Well, obviously, there's a no there. And they said, but we've promised it to our client. And the answer's still no. So no one's getting undercut. No one's getting it any cheaper. So yes, so work with the internet. You know, there are going to be eye tests online. It is. I mean, there are already vision tests. There are going to be proper eye tests online, I'm sure, within the next 5 years. Things will evolve. Things will change. And we just have to make sure that we make it so great for people to come to our stores that they don't want to buy online. Okay. Number one. Oh, I know who that is. Number one or number two. How you doing? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to disclose people's names, but I know who you are, and you are very welcome. Thank you very much. And number one or number two is the question. I think I'm number one, aren't I? Number one? I'll go for number one. Should I be modest and go for number two? I don't know. It's not that interesting for anybody else. Thank you for joining us. That's good of you to come. Do I have a business mentor? Is there anyone that helps us make tough decisions? Karen and I talk to people, but more importantly, we listen to people. You know, over 20 odd years in business, we've made a lot of tough decisions, and we've certainly made one or two crap decisions. And you just have to kind of like hold your head up high and just get up and get on with it. And I guess when you make those sort of decisions, you learn to ask more questions of people around you. We've always had really good people around us, and we've always been very grateful for that. We've had tremendous industry support. And just, you know, when we were launching Kirk and in the time running up to it, we had an enormous support from people. We've got a great team of reps that have joined us across the world. And we even had people that signed up for us before they even saw the collection. We had people that placed orders with us before they even saw the collection. So it's an amazing feeling, a very gratifying feeling that we really appreciate, and we hope continues. And it's our job and our responsibility to make sure that the frames that we produce and that we design live up to that expectation and keep people surprised and happy and enjoying our work season after season. One of the first things that we talked about was what is a designer, and I think people should never ever sell on their label. There's never an excuse for selling on their label, but at the same time, we love brand loyalty. There's nothing better than someone saying, "I love your frames. Can't wait to see your next collection," and that's brilliant. And I think as a designer, what you're trying to achieve is, or what Kirk and Kirk is trying to achieve, is to do a job that's so good that we earn the right for our clients and our consumers to want to come back and have a look next season to see what we're doing. And I think that's the ultimate goal. And I think that's what a label should really be, and shouldn't really ask for any more than that. So if we achieve that, then I'm happy. We work with Richard Wilhelm, who is our distributor, Lux Laboratories, over in California. Richard's our distributor, and I've known Richard for a long time, and an absolute true pro, very well respected in the business. So we're very, very lucky and happy to have Richard. We also have some really top reps around the world. We've got Max Neubauer, who looks after Australia and New Zealand. We've got Andreas in Germany, Austria, Switzerland. People that have been around in the industry for a long time. And for those people to choose to work with us is a great honour. Really, really, very lucky. What is our design process? Crikey, that's a tough question. It's a cliche, but the inspiration can come from anywhere. We start off. It depends, Sometimes it's like when you're writing a song. Does the music come first, or do the lyrics come first? Sometimes the material comes first, or a vision, a sense of what we're trying to create. Sometimes it's the shapes. It's rarely the shapes. The shapes are kind of. I guess the shapes are dictated by what we're trying to achieve, by a kind of an overall goal that we're trying to achieve. It's a concept, first of all. That's the design process. We start off with pencil and paper. We put that onto a computer, and we adjust it with a computer. We usually, but not always, do 3D drawings, but we don't always do that. And then it's a kind of a modelling process. So going through different stages of frames, flat fronts, 3D fronts, then actually creating the whole frame itself, and trying it on for comfort and size and style and everything that goes with that. That's what we do, and that's how we do it. Thank you. I think I've probably talked for long enough. If any of you are still there, nice. Make your presence known to me. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining Daily Optician, and thank you to Daily Optician for putting this on, because it's a great honour for me to be invited to do this, a chance to air some of the concerns that I have about our industry, and discuss them with you. I hope that I've managed to stimulate a few thoughts and a few ideas, and a few things will come out of this, and that my contemporaries, perhaps number two, will come and do the same thing, and air their views and come out. Karen and I love what we do. We love our industry. We love working with people like you guys that care enough to do things like this, to do the most up-to-date modern processes that stimulate and involve people in our industry. There should be hundreds of people joining in on this. I don't think there are, but there should be hundreds of people, because those are the people that can change our industry. And instead of sitting back and waiting for other people to change it, the ones with the power and the passion to do it need to get involved and do that. So thank you, Daily Optician. Thank you, everybody who came along and joined in. Thank you to everybody that's supported Kirk and Kirk over our short life so far, and those of you that are going to support us over the next few years. You can see more about what we do on kirkandkirk.com. Inevitable advert. Kirkandkirk.com. We have a great Instagram page, which is Instagram as Kirk and Kirk, and we have a Facebook page, which is Kirk and Kirk as well. And you can follow us on Twitter at Kirk and Kirk News. Thank you very much. It's been great. I've enjoyed it. See you soon. Ta-ra.